is AEW successful? Why is Tony Khan running his promotion better than Vince McMahon and Bruce Pritchard are running Monday night and Friday night? Long-term booking.
Thank you so very much for joining me right here on Off The Script. I got a little bit of extra for you. It is Saturday, January 15th, 2022. I am JD from New York, and this is the OTS venue. We have a lot to go over today, man. I was at the House of Glory show last night. Who runs the world? Our all-women's pay-per-view per se, 8-woman tournament where we crowned a new House of Glory women's champion. It was a very, very good show, and I'm going to be very honest with you guys. Going in, I wasn't really all that excited for the show. They turned me around and made me into one happy fellow at the end of that show, man. I thought the show was great. The women absolutely killed it. And I honestly think Salamonster and I, we churned out one of our better performances in the last couple of years on commentary, man. So I'm very excited for you guys to hear that. When it goes live on Fight, there was a problem where it wasn't on Fight last night. I think they pulled the feed before the show or a couple of days before the show. I do believe that it will be on there if you guys want to go and check that out sometime this weekend. We got a lot to get into, man. I'm going to save all the stuff for the end. You guys know the deal. Follow me on Twitter, all that stuff. Go check out all the other videos. Hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe. I want to get right into the news, man. I got more than I usually have for these extras. And I want to jump right into it, man, with this first story. Tommaso Ciampa and Pete Dunne apparently have been given dark matches the last couple of weeks. And all of a sudden, there's now talk about them both possibly joining SmackDown. I don't know how likely that is. I would absolutely be thrilled and over the moon happy about Tommaso Ciampa and Pete Dunne going to SmackDown because, God, do they fucking need all the help that they can get, man. It is looking absolutely terrible on SmackDown right now, and Ciampa, more than ready. Don't know if he wants it. I know he said in the past that if he joined the main roster or got called up to the main roster, that he would opt to retire instead. He doesn't want to travel on the road. He doesn't want to be away from his family. And Pete Dunne, he's more than ready for the main roster, man. Pete Dunne is fantastic. I don't know how likely he will be fantastic moving forward on the main roster with Bruce Pritchard and Vince McMahon running the show, but Bruce Pritchard's running NXT. So it makes no difference. You'll get buried there, and if not, you'll get buried on the main roster. So that is the going rumor right now. One of the big takeaways from their dark matches is that Ciampa changed his look. Now, what exactly does that mean? Ciampa is one of those guys that has a very distinguished look about him. The gray, the big beard, right? Over the last couple of years, Ciampa's let his beard go gray. And it's worked for him to enhance his overall look and persona. It really mirrors who Tommaso Ciampa is. Ciampa appeared on this week's episode of WWE Main Event, and fans took note that his beard has been dyed. He looks younger, but the grizzled veteran and his look from NXT is no longer there. There's no word on if this is something he did on his own or if this was a directive from Vince McMahon. McMahon reportedly wants younger wrestlers and he asked wrestlers to dye their hair before. When Kevin Nash returned to WWE in 2011, McMahon asked Nash to dye his hair and beard because he felt the gray made Nash look older. While some fans online prefer the gray beard on Ciampa, I am one of them. It seems like a lot of fans also like the new look because he looks younger and rejuvenated. Pete Dunne also wrestled on Main Event. He's going to, I guess, prove to these people. I don't know why you need to see Pete Dunne in action. I mean, all the same people that are running the main shows are running NXT now, so you know exactly what Pete Dunne brings to the table. We don't know what he's doing, if there's anything going to be changing about Pete Dunne or anything aesthetically changing about him, changing what he does in the ring. But they did note on Main Event that they gave him his original NXT theme music. Now, I don't know if that was a mistake or not, but CFO Money, or CFOs, they did Pete Dunne's old theme music, and I thought that theme music was a way better fit for him. So we don't know. There's no word on when or if Ciampa or Dunne will make their main roster debuts, but it is being talked about at the current moment. Ciampa was all gray, and Ciampa did not dye his beard gray because he wanted to. It was a directive from WWE. It was a directive from WWE management, Bruce, Vince, or whoever's in charge over there. They did the same thing to Cameron Grimes. Soon as Vince and Bruce took over and they saw Cameron Grimes and they saw what he looked like while he was wrestling under Triple H, while Triple H was still in charge, he had the grizzly chest and the long hair and the big beard. Now you look at Cameron Grimes, he looks a little bit more cleaned up. He shaved his chest, obviously. All his chest hair is, majority of it is gone. I would say out of 100%, maybe 20% of it remains. It's not like it was. Vince doesn't like hairy guys. That much is known. He shaved his beard or trimmed his beard a little bit. He cut his hair. This was a directive from Vince McMahon. He cleaned up Cameron Grimes because he did not like the way Cameron Grimes looked. He did the same thing to Tommaso Ciampa. Told Ciampa to dye his beard gray. You know, it might not look like a big deal to many people. It might not look like a big deal, but it is a big deal to me because a lot of these people, a lot of these men and women on the main roster, they all look the same. I can't distinguish one from the other, man. You know, everybody's got the same generic fucking theme music. Everybody does the same generic moveset. Ciampa is not going to survive. Who will survive, right? Or no one's going to survive, or whatever the fuck is in his theme music, right? And he's not going to survive himself on the main roster. He's not. If they're already doing subtle changes like this to dumb him down, I don't even want to know what they're going to do to Ciampa on the main roster. He's a Triple H guy. He's not going to survive on the main roster. They need talent. They may need him right now. They're not going to need him in a couple of years' time. There's no reason to change his look. I think the look that he had fit him better. Aesthetically, and as far as theme music goes, WWE doesn't take these things into account as being very, very important. Ciampa did not need anything changed about him. Nothing. You put him in the ring and you let him go. It's as simple as that. Pete Dunne doesn't need anything changed about him. You put him in the ring and you let him go. These two guys, I don't think, are going to be a major difference maker on the main roster. They will add depth and great pro wrestling to the main roster, but I'm not excited to see what Bruce Pritchard and Vince McMahon do with the writing as far as Ciampa and Dunne are concerned. I don't know. Let me know how you guys feel about it, man. Am I picking on it too much? Do you like the gray, or do you prefer Ciampa with the black beard? I don't know. Aesthetically, things like that go a very long way, man. It makes a big difference in someone's appearance on television. That's just the way I see it. WWE, we talked about the Elimination Chamber. We talked about the Elimination Chamber February 19th in Saudi. I went on a rant that the Elimination Chamber in previous years has been dumbed down. Nobody gives a shit about it. WWE doesn't really do anything to enhance it. It hasn't been used like it should on the road to WrestleMania. WWE randomly picks names out of a hat, puts them in the Elimination Chamber, and it's no rhyme or reason. There's no rhyme or reason for why these people are in there. They just choose names at random. Now there's news about the Elimination Chamber name getting rebranded. They're thinking about changing the Elimination Chamber match name. Dave Meltzer yesterday reported that WWE was looking to rebrand the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view name, and one name being considered for the rebranding is to call the Elimination Chamber the Wrestlemania Chamber. I don't see how this is going to go over with the consensus. If you want to change the chamber name to WrestleMania Chamber, then it should realistically be something that happens at WrestleMania. I don't know why we need to change the Elimination Chamber name. Instead of going out there and coming up with different names for this dead match concept that you've ruined over the last couple of years, why don't we put some effort and energy into making it seem prestigious? Why don't we put some energy and effort into rebuilding the match up as a very integral part of the road to WrestleMania? The Elimination Chamber has fallen from grace the last couple of years. Hasn't been used to really enhance anything on the road to WrestleMania. In fact, it's a complete waste of time. WWE doesn't utilize it the way that they really should be utilizing it, and they don't take it into account that it should be a very important aspect on the road to WrestleMania. It is a last-ditch effort. It should be a last-ditch effort. You want to be in the main event for one of the world titles at WrestleMania, you're going to have to enter the chamber. You know, you didn't get the job done in the Royal Rumble, you got to enter the chamber. It is the last, I would say, hope for whichever brand doesn't win the Royal Rumble, the last hope for you to main event at WrestleMania on one of the nights. And WWE hasn't really done that. Everything's gotten convoluted. They got 2 chamber matches, one for the men, one for the women, 2 Rumble matches, one for the men, one for the women. WWE doesn't really do anything. And in fact, last year, they should have really used the chamber to build up whoever the WWE champion was going into WrestleMania and build up their opponent. They used the chamber to defend the championships on that night. The chamber should not be used for that. Why does the champion have to go into the Elimination Chamber to defend the championship? It never made sense to me. It really never made any sense to me. The WrestleMania Chamber. They're thinking about changing the name when they should be changing their ideals about how to go about booking this match and making it feel important. So the WrestleMania Chamber is one idea. It looked like WWE perhaps was moving away from the Elimination Chamber name because of the negative connotations the name has in some parts of the world. Who gives a shit? Who has a problem with the Elimination Chamber? Now, all of a sudden, we need to change because of the political climate and the negative connotations that the name may have in some parts of the world. Where? I don't understand it. But it looks like the Elimination Chamber is going to get a rebranding. If not the WrestleMania Chamber, Meltzer also talked about one of the other names being considered for the match. And this is mind-boggling. Meltzer said that the name being considered is, and I quote, the annual Elimination Chamber. I don't know who's going to be talking like that and using that lingo. I don't. Hey, Bob, by the water cooler, how did you like the annual Elimination Chamber? Who's going to be calling it the annual Elimination Chamber? You're adding to the name that nobody will really be speaking. The Elimination Chamber is what we're going to be calling it. Hey, Bob, by the water cooler, did you enjoy the annual Elimination Chamber premium live event put on by World Wrestling Entertainment? The WWE Universe loved it. You fucking serious? God, this company is a bunch of... It's disgusting. It really is. It really is. They do so much to move themselves away from what they really are. And what they really are is a professional wrestling company. Nobody speaks like that. Nobody. The latest proposed name change for the Saudi pay-per-view is the annual Elimination Chamber. Meltzer said in a tweet, nothing is official until it is announced. Get ready, folks. The annual Elimination Chamber is coming up on February 19th. Xavier Woods, he's injured. He's out 4 to 6 weeks. Woods said he was doing a springboard DDT, and he ended up injuring his calf muscle. Woods says that he felt good enough to finish the match, but he will be out of action 4 to 6 weeks. Woods last wrestled on the 1-7 episode of SmackDown, where he teamed with Kofi Kingston to take on the Usos in a street fight for the SmackDown Tag Team Championship, so that is likely where the injury occurred. Hey, listen, man, might have happened when he put on that fucking helmet of his. That Legend of Zelda helmet that he pulled out from underneath the ring and put on his head. It might have been too heavy for him, man. So Woods is out 4 to 6 weeks. This leaves Kofi Kingston all by himself now. So what this means is that A, WWE has Xavier Woods out again, who seems to be injury prone at this point in his career. B, WWE now has no New Day, which means the Usos don't have a fucking New Day Usos match every fucking week. Now WWE's got to go out there and find other tag teams that they need to push, but they don't necessarily want to push. And when the New Day get back together, all those tag teams that they need to push are going to be pushed to the back burner. Xavier Woods is out. Sasha Banks is out. Roman Reigns was out 5 days with COVID. How many more people are going to be out on SmackDown before you fucking realize that you need to end the brand split? The brand split needs to come to an end. You have no tag team division. Charlotte is fucking face-to-face with goddamn Lita on SmackDown because you refuse to build any new stars currently that you have active on your main roster in your women's division. But everybody's clamoring for Lita and Charlotte. Who? Why? You are the fucking reason why the women's revolution is dead. Yes, let's go out and get a 46-year-old Lita and push her in a feud potentially against Charlotte Flair. End the brand split. And for all the people that tell me, oh, if you end the brand split, you won't be giving opportunities to everybody, man. It'll be one big mess. You fucking kidding me? Nobody's getting opportunities now. The fuck are you watching? Who exactly is getting opportunities? Nobody. It's all the same fucking people that you see every fucking week on these shows. Xavier Woods is out 4 to 6 weeks. Sasha Banks is out 2 months. How many more people need to get injured before you fucking awaken and realize that you need to end the brand split? WWE built up new stars and had actual tag teams and had an actual women's division. None of this would be a problem. Adam Pearce. Listen to this nonsense. Adam Pearce gives a ridiculous reason for booking Reigns versus Rollins at the Royal Rumble. Now, they had a stare down on SmackDown. I didn't really care about any of it, to be quite honest with you. Adam Pearce gives this reason as to why he booked Rollins and Reigns at the Royal Rumble. The logic here is mind-boggling, to say the least. So he was on the bump, and he gave his reason as to why he chose Mr. Rollins from Monday Night Raw to challenge Mr. Reigns for the Universal Championship. He says, and I quote, "You know, the thing about finding Roman's challenger is that you need to scour every nook, every cranny, and you got to find somebody that you believe is a formidable challenge to Roman Reigns." I was listening to Bobby Lashley a second ago talk about the match coming up against Brock Lesnar at the Royal Rumble, and I wanted to find something that would bring a very similar feel. What landed on me with Seth is history. Really, when you think about two people intertwined for a certain period of time, I think Reigns and Seth Rollins, with everything they've been through, with everything they've stood together for and against, makes a very intriguing matchup, and that I know Reigns will not be happy about, but here we are. They trusted me to make a decision, and it's official. End quote. All I heard from this interview with Adam Pearce on the bump with Kayla Braxton and a bunch of other nobodies was blah, 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 blah. I don't know who scripted him to say that. I don't know who gave him the order to say what he said here, but he comes off as an unintelligent fucking idiot. So that's what he's basing this off of, history. Would you care to explain why Rollins is a Monday Night Raw superstar, going to SmackDown challenging for the SmackDown Championship. There's nothing there. Oh, but no, it's history. History's the reason between Rollins and Reigns why I made that match. Doesn't really explain to me why Rollins, a Raw superstar, is going over to the SmackDown brand, the brand that he's not affiliated with, to challenge Roman Reigns, who's the SmackDown champion. Number 2, I don't know if you give a shit about previous episodes of your terrible program on Monday night that I have to fucking suffer through because I have made this my profession. But I remember vividly that there was a ladder match for the WWE Championship #1 contendership on Monday Night Raw. Who won that ladder match between, I believe it was Rollins, Finn Balor, Kevin Owens, Big E, right? Oh, no, Big E was the champion at that point. Who else was in that match? I don't even remember who else was in the match. All I know was Balor was there, Owens was there, Rollins was there. But at the end of it, who won that match? It was Seth Rollins, who won the contract to become the #1 contender for the WWE Championship. It was supposed to be Rollins versus Big E for the WWE Championship, one-on-one, Pearce. Then all of a sudden, Kevin Owens gets added to the match. Then all of a sudden, Bobby Lashley gets added to the match. Then we're looking at Brock Lesnar at day 1 get added to the match because WWE has nothing to do for Brock Lesnar. Roman Reigns is out with COVID. They make a fatal 4-way that was supposed to be for the WWE Championship between Raw guys. Now includes Brock Lesnar, who's a SmackDown guy per se because he's feuding with Roman Reigns. That makes it a fatal 5-way. So Rollins wins this ladder match for a one-on-one, and now he's not looking at a one-on-one. He's looking at a one-on-4 for himself. He never got his one-on-one match. It was supposed to be Rollins versus Big E. Now Lesnar's the WWE champion. He's wrestling Bobby Lashley at the Royal Rumble. Seth Rollins, he needs a championship match because he was never given what he earned. So being that Lashley is feuding with Lesnar right now at the Royal Rumble, Reigns has no opponent. So in the spirit of goodwill here, Pearce, you're going to go and look back at that and say, you know what, I'm going to give Rollins the championship match because he was never given one on my show, so now I got to go and do Rollins versus Reigns and give him what he's actually owed for winning that ladder match. I don't understand how this just goes, woo, over everybody's head, and nobody questions anything. And then I get criticized for being negative. How about you criticize the fucking stupidity of WWE management and how they make you look like a blithering fucking idiot? How many people are going to call that out? And if you do watch this clip, I guarantee you there'll be people, why is it a big deal? It's going to be a great match. I want to know what the fuck I'm watching, why I'm watching, what I'm watching, and how we got there, and why it should make sense. I'm sorry. What a ridiculous fucking reason, man. So stupid. The answer is right in front of them, and they dance around the topic, and they don't want to bring to your attention the real reason why Rollins is getting a championship match. They want to go and book history between Reigns and Rollins. Who gives a fuck? Who gives a shit? Speaking of who gives a shit, Lita. Lita was on SmackDown. Great. I called Amazing Red up as soon as I got to the NYC Arena. Bro, listen, I can't do commentary. Lita is coming back to SmackDown. Now, obviously, I didn't do that. And I laughed at the fact that Lita was on SmackDown. Got news about her appearance coming from Fightful. Fightful is reporting that prior to her return on SmackDown last night, Lita was in talks for a major run in All Elite Wrestling. Obviously, a deal was not worked out, and it appears that she is back in WWE for more than just the Royal Rumble. Great. Great. Another blemish on the women's revolution. Several weeks ago, Lita said on her Twitch channel that she was going to sign with AEW, so that must be around the time when the talks started. This is similar to what happened with Edge. He was in talks with AEW, but then was offered a deal to return to WWE. Lita made her return to WWE TV this week on Friday night, like I mentioned. It was the first time she was back on SmackDown in 20 years. Lita was on to talk about her entry into this year's Royal Rumble match Lita said she believes she has one more run left in her, and her plan is to win the Royal Rumble and then main event WrestleMania. Charlotte Flair then interrupted by walking out to the ring during Lita's promo because, of course, she would. Flair said she plans on winning the Royal Rumble and says that Trish Stratus begged for a match a couple of years ago, and she forced Trish Stratus to retire. Flair said she will do the same to Lita at the Royal Rumble. Lita ended the segment by hitting Flair with a twist of fate. PW Insider is reporting that the decision to bring Lita into the show was a last-minute decision. Of course it was. Bruce Pritchard's middle name is Last Minute. She was not booked to be a part of the show until Friday, or Thursday rather, going into Friday, and then she was called and a plane ticket was purchased for her. So Lita and her appearance on SmackDown came about Thursday. They bought her a plane ticket, booked her for the show. She got in Friday, and she was on the show Friday night. You know, everybody that's excited about this, you are absolutely guilty of ruining the women's division. This is not right. This is not right. WWE wants to fire so many talented women from the company, and they want to fire people showing their ageism. How many people did they fire because they deemed them too old? Taya Valkyrie was 35, 36 years old, fired. Mickie James was fired for being 42 years old and having no value left for the WWE women's division. Bronson Reed, one of the reasons why he was fired on top of Bruce Pritchard thinking he was a fat slob was because he was 32 years old. How many more people WWE fired because they thought that they didn't fit into the age bracket in which they were attractive enough, right? To be a WWE superstar. Now, they're too old. How many more people did they fire because of that? But you're okay with having Lita show up on SmackDown, Lita being one of the women in the Royal Rumble, 46 years old. Michelle McCool, 38 years old. Kelly, 38 years old. Mickie James, 42 years old. Molly Holly, she's in her 40s. So on and so forth. You're okay with this, though, right? You're okay with giving the Royal Rumble to all the aging veterans. You're okay with the WWE making their women's division into the, let's make this a major return to the Divas era. Nikki and Brie Bella, 38 years old. When are you people going to wake up? Am I a fan of Lita? Sure I am. 20 fucking years ago. That doesn't mean I want to see Lita on my television over somebody that is young and up and coming on the main roster. But this is a business, right? All the shills and all the e-drones, this is a business. And WWE needs to sell tickets for the Royal Rumble, for WrestleMania. So they opted to give Lita another contract and have her go on one more run. Because that's what it seems like. They bring back a 46-year-old Lita, right? Instead of pushing a 30-something or a late 20-something women's talent. And they rather do that because Lita has a bigger name. They are not in the business to create new stars. They are afraid of creating new up-and-coming superstars. They fired everybody. The women's division is dead. You got your Charlottes, you got your Sashas, Bayley. I got news on her in a second. Bayley's not even back yet. Charlotte, Sasha, Bayley, Becky, and then you got Bianca Belair, the new belle of the ball here in WWE. 5. Before that, it was Alexa Bliss. And she may be slotted right back into the position that she's in when she comes back full-time. But is WWE really planning a Lita comeback tour? Why is Lita back? Did WWE really want to bring back Lita, or did WWE really want to bring back Lita because they didn't want her to go to AEW? Maybe Lita used AEW because she really wanted to come back and used AEW as leverage, just like Adam Copeland used AEW for leverage. And how Randy Orton used AEW for leverage to get more money. We don't know. But Lita being back and Kelly and the Royal Rumble looking like it's the worst fucking field of all time doesn't really bode well for this women's revolution. How do you think Sasha Banks feels deep down, man, if you got Sasha Banks in the closed room? looking at all the women that got fired and looking at all the hard work that they put in, meaning her and Bayley, to get the women's division noticed through fucking hard work and professional wrestling. How do you think that woman feels at the end of the day when she's laying in bed with her husband? Thinking about how the women's revolution has deteriorated into nothing more than a rebranded new version of the Divas division. Because that's what this Royal Rumble is looking like. That's what Lita being back on WWE television is looking like. Yes, I get everybody loves Lita, but Lita is a Hall of Famer. Lita has had her time. Where is everybody else's time? Why aren't you building the division up with new talent and getting these talents over so that they may carry the torch when Sasha can't do it anymore? Or if Sasha's hurt for a longer time than just 2 months? Or Charlotte Flair? What is Charlotte Flair going to do at the Royal Rumble? She's going to go into the Royal Rumble and do what? Set up a fucking program with one of the legends? Just to pad her stats? I don't want to know anything about legends coming back or taking the roster spots over the young stars. That's not what we're here to do. WWE is well beyond that. All it's doing is showing how hypocritical they are by bringing in these aging women, and it's showing how WWE doesn't really give a shit about the women's revolution anymore. They don't care. And it's sad that they once upon a time had the potential to have one of the best women's rosters in all of wrestling. And now you're looking at shit that is just quite sad to watch. Lita coming back does absolutely nothing for me and nothing for the division. Nothing. Bayley's return before WrestleMania does not look too promising at all. Bayley's been nursing an injured knee for quite some time, and the WWE fans are anxiously awaiting her return. I know I'm one of them. I love Bayley. There's a ton of online speculation right now that she could be back for the Royal Rumble. Bayley and Sasha Banks are both recovering from injuries. Bayley had reconstructive knee surgery and is hoping to be able to compete as soon as February. According to this week's Wrestling Observer newsletter, Sasha injured her leg at a recent house show and is expected to return just before WrestleMania. Banks is expected back just in time for Mania, but whether with her injury, how long they go with the injury in another direction, they may go in another direction, and that's also a possibility. There's no obvious direction because nobody else on the SmackDown side has been pushed big. If Bayley can return, she's a big enough star. Bayley's return from reconstructive surgery could be as early as February, but it's more likely March. Banks' return is also mid-March as well. Based on that reporting, it does sound like Bayley will compete in the Women's Royal Rumble this year. There is always the potential for a surprise. Both Sasha and Bayley should be back in time for WrestleMania. Now, I don't know. I don't know when Bayley's returning. You know, she's been very coy about what she's doing coming up, and she's blaming fans still, healing it up online. You know, Bayley may be used as a surprise. I think she's about due. But if she's not back for the Royal Rumble, what realistically is WWE going to do for the Royal Rumble? They're only looking at two potential winners in the Royal Rumble. And that is Bianca Belair to go up against Becky Lynch at WrestleMania. And the other one, believe it or not, is Alexa Bliss. Those are the only two options in the Women's Royal Rumble. Oh, JD, what about a Rhea Ripley? Oh, JD, what about a returning Asuka? I don't want to see Asuka win the Royal Rumble. She's factored into nothing. Asuka versus Becky? To be quite honest with you, I would actually take Asuka versus Becky Lynch at WrestleMania. That would be a great match. They've had great matches. It would make sense. It really would. They have a nice little history with each other. I don't really care about Bianca Belair and Becky Lynch again because I don't really see the point in Bianca Belair beating Becky Lynch at WrestleMania. What's the difference? Bianca Belair main evented WrestleMania last year with Sasha Banks. She won the Women's Championship at WrestleMania in the main event against Sasha Banks. What is the difference this year from last year? Last year's match was much more important, just based on who was in the match and what it did for the culture of black athletes in professional wrestling. That was a monumental match. How is that match going to be more important to Bianca Belair than beating Becky Lynch at WrestleMania this year. Nobody understands that this doesn't make any sense. I don't want to see Bianca Belair win the Royal Rumble 2 years in a row either. I don't. I'd rather that opportunity go to somebody else, somebody new, set up a new match. Bayley winning the Royal Rumble would be great. Bayley going on to challenge Charlotte Flair would be ideal for me. Sasha Banks was a favorite to win the Royal Rumble. Clearly, she's not going to be there. How do we get Sasha Banks into the title match at WrestleMania if she's coming back in mid-March? That is going to be a headache on WWE Creative in itself. I think we stick to our guns here. If Bayley is back and able to come back, that should be the match on SmackDown. Bayley versus Charlotte Flair. Simple. Or you could do Bayley versus Becky, one or the other. I think Bayley versus Becky would be better than any Bianca and Becky match possible. Charlotte Flair has Bayley. Charlotte Flair also has Alexa Bliss. Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair, believe it or not, and this is not one of my ideal situations, but for the sake of storytelling and what I preach about long-term booking, it actually makes sense. The last time we saw Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair was ripping up Lily the doll, and that sent Alexa Bliss into hiatus. Now Alexa Bliss is back, and maybe Alexa Bliss wins the Royal Rumble. Or maybe without winning the Royal Rumble, she eliminates Charlotte Flair, and Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair is set up for a WrestleMania match through those means. I don't know. WWE has a couple of ways to go about it. None of them are particularly interesting, but it's going to be a very interesting situation to see where Bayley comes back, if not the Royal Rumble, when Sasha comes back, when Sasha and Bayley are both healthy to be on the roster at the same time, and how they factor them into WrestleMania, because they're going to have to be factored into WrestleMania. Or maybe we just get the prototypical, stereotypical, formulaic WWE match. Yeah, we're going to do Charlotte versus Becky Charlotte versus Bayley versus Sasha at WrestleMania. Triple threat match, because it's got to be about the horsewomen. And then Becky and Bianca on the Monday Night Raw side. I don't know. This, again, is a problem. You have no new faces. It's all the same fucking faces. How are you a fan and you're okay with seeing the same fucking shit over and over and over again, and the same faces being pushed week after week after week after week? I would understand if the storylines were compelling, but there's no compelling storylines. So why would you want to see this mediocre fucking mid WWE creative with the same fucking matches every week with no compelling storylines? It's unbelievable, man. The original women's championship plan for WrestleMania, according to a report, is Lynch versus Bianca, and it was going to be Banks versus Charlotte. Like, why would anybody be interested in Banks versus Charlotte again? Who wants that? I know I don't. I would rather see Banks and Bayley again. Because they fucked that up the last time and went about it completely backwards. Unbelievable, man. Charlotte's in the Royal Rumble, so we don't even know how she's going to get her match. It may be via the Chamber in Saudi. We don't know. It's unreal, man. It is unreal how the women's division has fallen so flat in recent years, and nobody is saying a fucking word. Nobody says a peep about anything. Oh, Lita. Oh, Kelly. Oh, Mickie James. Oh, this and that. The Bella twins. Meanwhile, WWE's letting potential future fucking women's champions go left and right. Nobody bats a fucking eyelash. Oh, as long as we're getting Becky versus Bianca at WrestleMania. As long as Charlotte is the women's champion going into WrestleMania, great. That's why WWE has the worst women's division in all of the sport. And finally, guys, Kofi Kingston. Get a load of this one. Kofi Kingston reacts to fan criticism about repetitive New Day versus Uso matches. It's amazing to me how they dance around these topics. It's amazing how said interviewer asks these questions, knowing the answer that they're going to get, because it It's going to get people off. Look, a WWE superstar once again shitting on the fucking fan base and shitting on the fans that react on social media. Since November, the Usos and the New Day have wrestled 6 times. Since November! This is something Kingston talked about during a recent appearance on Rick Ucchino's Pro Wrestling Podcast. Who that is, I have no fucking clue. He says, yeah, it's funny that you say that, man, because we laugh about that all the time. I never heard so many people complain about a guaranteed great match. Like, you go out there and complain, oh, I got to watch another great match. Every match that we've had with the Usos, we pride ourselves on making it better than the last. End quote. Although he doesn't want to compare himself to the Dudley Boys, the Hardy Boys, Edge or Christian with their classic matches, he does like to take their mentality of outdoing themselves every single time he gets to work with the Usos. He says, and I quote, it's so easy working with the Usos, man. Like, we have the same mentality. No matter where we are on the card, we seek to steal the show, as you saw on day 1. Kofi then stated that WWE usually puts them first on the card, or if they put them first on the card, they're going to try and set the bar even higher, and called it a blessing to have opponents that you jive with. He says, knock on wood, maybe next time the next one will be a stinker. I don't know. I said that maybe the next time it will be a stinker, then people will have some grounds to complain. You know, again, they dance around the fucking problems. This is Kofi Kingston, ha 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 ha, not really angrily shitting on the fans like somebody else or other people in the company, but he's still shitting on the fans nonetheless. In no way did he give an explanation as to, yeah, our tag team division is weak. This is what we, the fans, are complaining about. I don't give a fuck if the Usos and the New Day wrestled each other in a division that had 7 other fucking tag teams. But the fact of the matter is, we as a fan base are upset that WWE, your bosses, Bruce, Vince, John Laurinaitis, and any other fucking suit and tie that doesn't give a shit on WWE television, we the fans are upset because you 2 teams are the only teams in the company, and I'm talking about legit teams. I'm not talking about makeshift teams like RK Bro or fucking whoever else they want to pair together and call them a tag team. How many other teams in the company does WWE want to legitimately push like you guys? There is nobody else. The Viking Raiders, give me a break. Mansoor and Ali, give me a fucking break. Who else is there? Los Lotharios, give me a break. Baron Corbin and Madcap Moss? Are they even a fucking tag team? I don't know. I'm throwing shit out there, man. Who is a tag team that WWE will legitimately want to push on the main roster? RK Bro, the Street Profits, Alpha Academy on Monday Night Raw. Who else is there? This is why I've been chiming in every time I get the chance to, man. End the brand split. If not, then merge the women's divisions and merge the men's tag team divisions. That's not our problem. Our problem is your tag team division sucks. And SmackDown's roster is as weak as it's ever been. It may be the weakest in history on SmackDown. That's our problem. But you're not going to hear this from fucking Rick Ucchino, one-tracked mind interviewer / podcaster that doesn't ask the fucking questions. He's given questions to ask by WWE PR, and they don't tackle the fucking problems. That's why we're upset. That's why we complain. Not because you're in the ring with the Usos again, because your show sucks and your division is fucking terrible. And WWE's care about tag team wrestling clearly is non-existent. That's why we complain. Getting the hell out of here, man. If there's any more news, I'll be back tomorrow. Make sure you guys hit that thumbs up. Let's try for 1,000 likes minimum on today's OTS Extra. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell for notifications. Go check out all the other videos that you might have missed on the channel, all the live streams, Raw, AEW Dynamite. There was no SmackDown. There was no NXT this week. They will return next week. I did an extra for you guys talking about my thoughts on the Corey Graves situation and him being cleared in WWE. So make sure you guys go and check all of that out. And like I said, I will be back potentially tomorrow with more news and rumors right here on Off The Script. I'm going to be asking you guys a very, very serious question, man, about the vision of the channel. And we may have a nice little discussion next week on what we want to do. And I'm going to seek your guys' opinions. I don't know what I want to do as far as the flagship podcast is concerned. I'm actually quite bored with uploading and sitting here for 5 hours on a random weekend doing the show. Don't want to do that anymore, man. Don't want to do that anymore. I've gotten quite comfortable doing these OTS extras, and if we can brand the show the way we've been doing it and do more live streams and get more content out there and be on top of the news daily and make sure that we're on top of everything as it breaks instead of waiting till the weekend and having 4 days go by and then do the show, but the stories aren't really all that important anymore because everybody's heard it from everywhere. A lot of things I want to discuss with you guys, man, so look forward to that next week as well. But until then, have a great Saturday. We'll see you guys tomorrow with more news and rumors right here on Off The Script. I'll see you guys later.